sent me an email and the entire board an email with the opposition statement for the voter's guide. She sat and lied through her teeth for 2 hours to constituents, and I had to sit there and listen to it. That might be why I was smiling. It was difficult for me to contain myself. Anyhow, I am so sorry that we had to take up our comment time hearing about such things, but I'm a little tired of hearing about transparency, honesty, legality, and integrity from someone who sat and lied for 2 hours. That having been said, I wanted to say thank you this evening to all of the teachers and the staff, everyone in this district that makes it possible to do what we're doing here to educate all of our kids. This district has been accredited with distinction for the 7th consecutive year. That is no cosmic accident. It is due to the efforts of the teachers and everyone who supports them. There are nearly 3,000 strong adults in this district, and those teachers are down at their classrooms tonight, hearing from parents, talking with parents, working with parents on solutions for kids. And that's what we're here, and that's what we're all about. And I wanted to say thank you to them. After working a full day today, being in the classrooms with their kids, I'm amazed at their efforts. And I used to be a parent, and I used to be sitting in those hallways, and I used to be out there waiting for my turn to have a few moments of their valuable time. They have a lot of kids and a lot of work to do. And I also wanted to say, in that vein, thank you to all the parents who come and support our teachers, all those who arrange dinners and they bring them little gifts and they try to serve them and help bolster them as they go through their daily routines, but also through parent-teacher conference times. I just want to say thank you so much for the efforts. That's what's making this district great, is everyone working together, everyone looking at the positive things, at the good things that we're doing. Of course we need to be accountable, and of course we need to consider our problems, but our problems are not what define us. What defines us are all the moments that our teachers are making in the classroom with the kids, and that the parents are making together with their kids and their teachers, and working all together. That's why this district is so outstanding, and that's why I'm grateful to be sitting in this seat and be a part of it. So thank you very much to all of you, and I look forward to the work in the weeks ahead, no matter what it brings with this bond, yes or no. We'll keep doing the great work that's been done in this district.
Thank you. Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm going to take a pass. I'm just glad we do have a number of people here, and we have a lot of great things to talk about today. So thank you very much. Administration comments. Dr. Hatchell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gregory.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Smith.
No, thank you.
Dr. Field.
No, thank you.
Dr. Peak.
No, thank you.
Mr. Cohn.
No, thank you.
Ms. Cortez. Ms. Kuzer. Mr. Grady.
No, thank you.
I do have a few items. The Air Academy High School and Liberty High School marching bands are traveling to the Bands of America Super Regionals this week. They will compete against some of the best marching bands in the country. Air Academy was named one of the bands to watch, with judges stating easily one of the most surprising and entertaining groups in competition we've seen in years. Last night, the Bandmasters Southern Regional State Competition, Air Academy High School finished first, Liberty High School second, Rampart High School fourth, and Pine Creek seventh. The City of Colorado Springs and its Transportation Department are working with Explorer Elementary on a public service announcement about school zone safety. Film crew started filming footage today. Douglas Valley Elementary is holding a slipper drive after learning one of the Douglas Valley students is battling anemia at Children's Hospital in Denver. The students wanted to show their support and provide comfy slippers for every patient at the hospital. Last week, the Colorado National Guard landed at Woodman Roberts Elementary, and National Guard helicopter touched down on the grounds to kick off Red Ribbon Week to start off the annual observance. The district was recently recognized for the Healthy Schools Successful Students Progress made in 2015-16. The organization reached out and applauded the fantastic B20 team who made the district a model for implementing healthy school initiatives. Thank you very much.
Consent agenda. We need a motion to approve the following resolutions: 233-16 approval of matters related to licensed personnel teachers, 234-16 approval of matters related to classified personnel, 235-16 approval of monitoring report for policy EL 2.0 global executive constraint, 236-16 approval of MRE for the same, 237-16 approval of annual BSR 3.0 governance management connection, 238-16 approval of MRE for the same, 239 240-16 approval of annual BSR 3.1 Unity of Control, 240-16 approval of MRE for the same, 241-16 approval of annual BSR 3.2 accountability of the superintendent, 242-16 approval of MRE for the same, 243-16 approval of annual BSR 3.3 delegation to the superintendent, 244-16 approval of MRE for the same, 245-16 approval of annual BSR 3.4 monitoring superintendent performance, 246-16 approval of MRE for the same, approval of Board of Education regular meeting minutes from October 6, 2016. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Borland?
Aye.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mr. Strebe?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Meter? Aye.
Item number 7, items pulled from consent agenda. We pulled 247-16 approval of language revision to GP 4.4, board meetings, and GP 4.6, board officers' roles. And we pulled that from consent agenda to have a discussion. I will turn it over to Mrs. Van Meter.
Thank you, Mr. Strebe, and thank you, fellow members of the board, for accommodating my request. We had a request from a community member through a comment that was read this evening to give specific examples. And I will tell you why we did it this way. We may still choose to change this language if it suits the board, but the item that's being discussed is under GP 4.4, and it is item 4 for your reference in the packet. It states, the Board of Education welcomes and encourages public comment and will reserve time for this purpose during its regular meetings. We used to say at the beginning of the meetings. There is no attempt to move this comment, and that was never the intent of this conversation, to move it to the end of a meeting or make it difficult for the public. The reason that we changed that language was because we found in reviewing this that we have accidentally violated our own policy before in what we have had to do. Some specific examples were we have had to have executive sessions where we've moved them to the beginning of a meeting because we had an outside guest who needed to attend to give the board information and an executive session about a matter, and we had to move it to the beginning of the meeting to accommodate them. Technically speaking, at that time, we were in violation of our own policy because it specifically stated at the beginning of the meeting. It was not the first item, therefore we were technically in violation. So that was the meaning there. We simply wanted to clarify that we are absolutely going to reserve time for this purpose. Now, if the board chooses, we could modify the language at this time to clarify for the public, and we'll reserve time for this purpose at the beginning of its regular meetings whenever possible. If you would like to, I would entertain that language change this evening. If we want to clarify it, if the board is satisfied with it as presented, I'm good. But I wanted to make sure that we understood. There's no move to change this out of the beginning section of the board meetings. It's simply a technicality. The way we had it written before gave us no flexibility to do what we needed to do.
Mrs. Ball.
At the start of regular meetings, so if you have an executive session and then isn't the regular meeting still be at the start of?
No, because we come in and we take roll, I believe.
Yeah, the roll meet, the formal meeting starts, the executive session would be inclusive of that.
And does at the start of mean it has to be the very first thing? Doesn't that just mean beginning? Or change the beginning of, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean the very first thing you do. It's just one of them.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's actually go through and it's call to order, approve the agenda, the board quote, and then we get comments.
So it was, when we read it, we looked at it and said, oh my, this looks like it means the very first item, which we have in times past moved it for various logistical reasons like that. We've never moved it past the consent agenda. We always dispense with it in the beginning portion of the meeting. But the idea being, the way it was written before was very precise, and it actually implied it had to be the first item, which we weren't doing. So we could, as I said, I would be happy to entertain a word change if the board deems it necessary. We obviously missed that. And there was never any intent, and I believe anyone who was here for the conversation last night would have heard there was no intent expressed to ever do that. No one on the board talked about that. There was no intent expressed. So I'm not.
At the last board meeting, yeah.
Yes, at the last board meeting when we discussed this, that's why we're bringing it back on consent on consent agenda because it was discussed at the last board meeting and there was clearly no intent to do that. But I can see here that, I guess if someone wanted to move board comment to the very end of the meeting, they could. I don't know why anyone would want to do that, so perhaps we could make that change if we choose. If the board deems it necessary, I'm open to that.
I'm thinking and processing, so give me a minute. I'm thinking that if we said something, I like the idea of clarifying that I would want to put it at the start of the meeting. You know, something like unless other circumstances existed. But I'm also thinking maybe if we could say, at the start of the meeting, before regular business is conducted or something along those lines. So the idea being, before we get down to, you know, listening to reports and taking votes and whatever, that we would want to put the public first. I mean, we do that all the time. We put, when people are in here that are guests and aren't required to be here, like cabinet, we try to move that around and accommodate that. So, I mean, I get the point, and I think that's what our practice is and would continue to be. So I think if we could soften that language to indicate that if there's a valid reason, we might move it, but typically we're going to do it at the beginning of the meeting. I think I like your language, but I'm just trying to think if I could one up.
Other thoughts?
How about Board of Education welcomes and encourages public comment, which is typically at the start of regular meetings? That's
How about prior to the commencement of regular business?
I knew a lawyer could come up with something.
Thank you. So if we say, and will reserve time for this purpose prior to the commencement of its regular business,
Yes.
do we have to state that it's, because right now we have it says during its regular meetings, because we don't always take public comment at other work sessions.
So
Prior to the commencement, you said prior to the commencement of regular business.
Well, we could leave
It's
at the
regular
start of,
meetings?
we could leave at the start of regular meetings, comma, prior to commencement of regular business.
Yes. I could go for that.
The GP 4.4 is for board meetings only, not public information sessions, right? That's included, all right?
Oh, okay.
It's inclusive, or it's not inclusive, it's for board meetings only.
And Mr. Cohen, would that imply that it's not for work sessions, or would it include work sessions? I mean, a meeting is a meeting.
well, we distinguish regular from executive. Regular meeting from executive session.
That's why we put, you know, if you look at item 1 now, we stated all regular meetings of the Board of Education. We just wanted to be specific that they will be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. So understanding that if there's a work session, we're not going to use Robert's Rules of Order. We don't have to do that except in regular meetings. So I would be more comfortable if we leave regular meetings in there simply so that it's well understood that public comments will not necessarily be accepted in other forums. They may or they may not.
That works for me, at the start of regular meetings, prior to the commencement of regular business. That works.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, I would move that we make that language change. Item 4 should read, the Board of Education welcomes and encourages public comment and will reserve time for this purpose during its regular meetings, comma, prior to the commencement of its regular business. That's a motion.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor, I have a second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Borland?
Aye.
Mrs. Bullock?
I do have one more question. Can I ask another
Sure.
question? It was also asked by, whoever asked it, on B, except when deemed necessary by the board president. Why did we put that in there? Does the board president ever have a response?
If I could suggest, if we need to talk about that, let's get this motion off the table first, and then we'll talk
Oh,
about that.
are we not voting for the whole
I
thing?
think we're just voting for that, Lane.
They will vote for that specific.
Sorry, okay, aye.
Mr. Strebe?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Mater? Aye.
Okay.
I didn't get the vote.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's one vote.
One vote, one member, one vote.
Sorry.
Okay, we've got that one, that piece taken care of. Mrs. Bullock?
So Mrs. Van Meter, why did you add that extra thing on 4B?
Because there have been times when a question was asked, or it was more expedient for the president to simply respond immediately. We had something like that recently. So I guess the idea being to allow a little bit of flexibility, but it would be, the intention was that it would be a rare instance when that would happen, but occasionally it's simply more expedient and makes more sense rather than having people walk away from the podium. If a question can be answered quickly or easily by the board president, we would just allow that. Yes, we did. So that's the idea. Not that it would become a common practice.
Any other questions? Because we did that specific piece, or we did that specific language on that one item, and that's what we accepted. As a result of that, we still have to accept the policy as a whole. So I will entertain a motion to approve the language revision of GP 4.4 and GP 4.6 board officers' roles as amended that we had.
So,
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Borland?
aye.
Mrs. Bullock?
Aye.
Mr. Strebe?
Aye.
Mrs. Van Mater? Aye.
Thank you. Superintendent's reports and resolutions. Dr. Hatchell, TCA annual monitoring report.
Thank you very much. We have Dr. Sojourner here, he also the board president, who I very much apologize. I'm sorry about you. Alma Valley. Glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. I think I've been in front of most of you giving this monitoring report over the last couple of years. I was at a conference last year, so my director of academic services, David, I'm happy to be back because I was in Atlanta last year. We've been doing these since 2012. This is the fourth time that we have presented to you all. I'm a little conflicted in this report. I don't want to give you too much detail. You've got an 11-page monitoring report. At the same time, I want to pull out the things I think that you might be interested in as you hear about our year at the Classical Academy. And again, I want to make sure that I emphasize that our board chair, Tom LaValle, is here, as is our board clerk and my assistant, Bob Swanson. I'm going to try to keep this to 5 minutes if I can. I'm going to remind you all that TCA consists of 7 schools on 3 campuses. There are 3 elementary schools, a junior high school, a high school, a cottage school program, and a college pathways hybrid online learning program. We currently have 3,800 students. 2,100 of those are D20 students. If you recall that we have a cap of 2,250 students that can be D20s, and we've always been below that. We've always hovered over the past 5 or 6 years around 2,100 D20 students. The monitoring report is broken up into 4 major categories. I will pull 1 or 2 items from each one of those categories. Under the first category, governance, I want to speak to 3A for a moment, and I want to thank specifically Dr. Hatchell and Tom Gregory for the support that they gave us at TCA, our inclusion in the Growth and Capital Needs Committee, and thank you all as a board for including TCA. Our board met this week on Monday night and passed a resolution supporting 3A. I believe you have the draft resolution as part of the read-aheads. The only change to that verbiage, they added the words property taxes will not increase to be consistent with a lot of the verbiage that the D20s put out. All I'll say about 3A is we expect a really large turnout of TCA voters. We have a 7-member elected school board. We're changing, that policy is being changed by our board this year. We're going to have 6 elected members and 1 appointed member. That process will go into effect this coming year, so we'll see that in April and May. All of our school board members, the only people that vote for TCA board of directors are TCA families. Every family in TCA gets 1 vote, and so that's how we conduct elections. The only other thing I'll mention under governance is I gave you some statistics about staff turnover. The last couple of years have been the lowest staff turnover that we've ever had at TCA. Last year was our lowest turnover, teacher turnover. About 12.6% of our teachers turned over 2 years ago, and last year was our second lowest staff turnover at 12.7. Second category, academic achievement.
Excuse me, I apologize for interrupting, Dr. Sojourner.
You're fine.
As I looked at it, when I read that, it jumped out at me on teacher turnover, staff turnover. You improved quite a bit, and that's outstanding numbers. Is there anything specific that you would say attributed to that kind of improvement?
I like to say it was the new president, but I'm sorry, I interrupted. Sorry. Anything specific that created the lower numbers?
Yes, they improved.
We went through.
I realize that there's all the staff satisfaction things that you have to report.
We went through a couple of years of some turmoil at TCA. At the top with our school president. At our high school, we went through about 4 high school principals in 3 years, 5 high school principals in 3 years. And so there was a time where there was some staff unrest about the stability in leadership at TCA. I think we've got past that now. And so after Dr. Coulter left his interim position as TCA president and I came in, we've had 1 assistant principal turnover in the last 3 years. All of our principals have remained the same, and so I think we're stable.
Great, well done. Thank you much.
Under academic achievement, I want to point out that the data that is in the monitoring report, those are 13-14 test year data. Excuse me, that's 14-15 test year data. As you all know, schools have just recently received PARC data. We haven't even reported that data to our board yet. And so you're getting data that is from a year and a half ago. It is still a year since the last data that was reported, but I do want to point that out. This is not last year assessment data, it's 14-15 academic data. The only thing I'll point out is of the 34 tested areas where we received reports from the 14-15 school year, we had 1 test where we failed to meet participation requirements. So of the 34 tests, TCA exceeded the state average on 32 of the tested areas. We were slightly below the state average on 8th grade math and 4th grade social studies. We're pretty proud of our academic performance, as we always have been. I point out that last year, U.S. News and World Report and Newsweek released their top high schools in the nation. Only 3 schools in the state of Colorado were listed on both of those lists, and TCA High School was one of those 3. We were ranked number 9 in Colorado by Newsweek and number 10 in Colorado by U.S. News. The other thing I need to point out is our opt-out numbers. I've had this conversation with Dr. Hatchell a few times. Those of you that know the TCA community, we have a pretty active parent group. They chose TCA for a reason. They chose to be at a school that doesn't have transportation. They chose to be at a school where I asked them to donate money. It is a unique parent set, and so we anticipated when we started this round of PARC and CMAS that TCA parents would, at a higher rate, choose to not have their children test. That has been borne out. In the 14-15 school year, our opt-out rate was in the 40 to 50% range, average about 45%. It has been my mission to educate parents to the value of assessments. Last year, our opt-out rate was about 25%, so we think we're moving in the right direction, and we'll see what this year brings us. Under operations, the last couple of years we've talked about money that came to the school because we refinanced a couple sets of bonds. That released about $6 million to TCA. We also, as you know, sold the original TCA campus that was right next to Liberty High School. That freed up about $1 million for us. We had about $7 million to do capital construction. We embarked on 4 different projects. 3 of those projects have been completed this year. We created a staff office modular at our College Pathways school at our East Campus. We built a second playground at the East Campus. And just this week, we cut the ribbon on a multi-use athletic field at our North Campus. We didn't have a baseball field or a softball field for our high school, and so we just cut the ribbon on that project. We also finished the renovation of our Central Elementary. Central Elementary, if you remember, is the original District 20 Mountain View Elementary. So it's a pretty old school, and we mitigated some asbestos, and we eliminated all of the exterior doors from each one of the individual classrooms. We put in air conditioning and carpet and new fixtures and new paint. So we renovated that building, and we're right in the middle of creating an addition on the Central Elementary campus. It's a 2-story, 28,000 foot addition that'll have 14 classrooms. When that's complete in January or February, we'll be able to eliminate 6 of our modular classrooms and move our kids inside the building. I know that that's something that's on the list with for bond money as well for you all. Last thing I'll say about operations, we continue to have a long and exhaustive wait list. But almost all incoming students, I think this is important for you all, almost all of our incoming students come into kindergarten. Some come into first grade. After about that first grade, we generally don't take students unless they are staff children. And so of the thousands of kids on our wait list, we usually bring in about 300 or 400, and those are typically at kindergarten, first grade. Last thing I'll mention about operations, because Pat asked me to, she appreciated seeing our special education numbers. We have 82 students on 504 plans, 148 students with IEPs, and 31 ELL students. About 8 to 9% of our student population is on a plan. Last category, finance. We're in great financial shape. Our total revenue this last year was a tad over $29 million. We've got about between 80 and 90 operating days of cash that we operate upon. Our audit was conducted by Clifton Larson and Allen, and we expect an unmodified opinion and a final report at the end of this month. As you often hear, I just mentioned that I am a fundraiser as well. We know we operated a little bit of a deficit at TCA, and so I challenge our parents to consider sacrificial giving, and so I'm in the fundraising business as well as president. Finally, per the executive summary and dashboard, I don't believe there are any areas of concern that I would want to identify to you all. On the contrary, I believe we're in exemplary shape at the Classical Academy, and it's partly due to the strong relationship that we have with you all. It will feel a little self-serving that I stand in front of you and tell you that, but when I was the junior high school principal at TCA for 8 years, and then I retired and I joined a national nonprofit, education nonprofit, where I traveled all over the country and all over the world. I visited schools in 11 states and 3 countries. I evaluated schools in 7